Welcome. This is a future pacing practice designed to help you connect with a possible version of your future. Not a perfect future, and not one in which every problem has disappeared, but a future shaped by the small choices you begin making today. Sometimes we believe we need clarity before we can move forward. We tell ourselves that once we feel more confident, less anxious, more motivated, or more certain, then we will begin. But very often, clarity and confidence do not come before action. They emerge because we begin. In this practice, you will imagine meeting a version of yourself several months from now who has simply begun taking consistent, manageable steps toward the life they want to create. There is nothing you need to achieve during this meditation. You do not need to visualize perfectly. You do not need to know exactly what your future should look like. Simply allow images, impressions, feelings, or thoughts to arise naturally. And at the end of the practice, you will be invited to identify just one small action that you can take in the present. So find somewhere comfortable where you can remain undisturbed for the next few minutes. And when you are ready, we will begin. Allow yourself to settle into a comfortable position. You may be sitting or lying down. Let your hands rest easily. And if it feels comfortable, gently close your eyes. Take a slow breath in and breathe out. Again, a slow, comfortable breath in and a long, easy breath out. There is nothing you need to solve right now, nothing you need to figure out. For these few minutes, simply allow yourself to be here. Notice the support beneath your body. Notice the weight of your body being held. And begin to become aware of your breathing. You do not need to change it. Simply notice the breath coming in, going out. With each exhalation, allow the body to soften a little. Let the shoulders release. Let the jaw soften. Allow the muscles around the eyes to relax. And for now, give yourself permission to put aside everything that feels unfinished. The decisions, the plans, the questions, the things you think you should already have figured out. You are not here to create a perfect future. You are simply going to visit a possible future. A future created not by one enormous decision, but by many choices made consistently over time. Take another slow breath in and gently breathe out. And now, imagine that somewhere in front of you there is a pathway. You do not need to see it clearly. Perhaps you simply sense it. This pathway represents the next few months of your life. And rather than needing to know exactly where everything leads, imagine yourself simply taking the first step. You begin walking slowly, easily. There is no rush. And as you walk, imagine time beginning to pass. Days, weeks, months, and somewhere ahead of you, there is a version of yourself living perhaps 6 months from now. Not a perfect version of you, not someone who has solved every problem. Simply you. You after 6 months of beginning to show up differently. 6 months of taking small steps. 6 months of learning to act even when you do not feel completely ready. Begin to imagine yourself approaching this future version of you. Notice where you are. Perhaps you are at home, perhaps outside, perhaps somewhere quiet. You do not have to force an image. Simply allow an impression to arise. And begin by noticing something very simple. How does this future version of you carry themselves? There may still be uncertainty in their life. There may still be things they are working through. But something has shifted. Perhaps there is a little more steadiness, a little more trust, a little less waiting for the perfect emotional state before beginning. Take a few moments to simply notice. And now, imagine stepping into the experience of this future version of yourself. For a few moments, become the you who is living 6 months from now. Notice what an ordinary day feels like. You wake up in the morning, and rather than feeling that everything needs to be resolved at once, you have begun to understand what your next few steps are. You have discovered that clarity often comes through movement. You no longer require complete certainty before you act. Perhaps you remember the goals you once wrote down. Some short term, some medium term, some further into the future. And they no longer feel like one overwhelming collection of hopes, expectations, and responsibilities. You have begun breaking things into smaller pieces. You know what belongs to today, what belongs to this week, and what can wait. Notice what that feels like. You have also begun to understand that balance is not something you suddenly achieve. It is something you continually create through small decisions. Perhaps you have developed a simple meditation practice. Perhaps you organize your time a little differently. Perhaps certain routines now support you. Nothing dramatic, simply practices you return to. And there have certainly been days when you did not feel motivated, days when you felt anxious, days when your attention was scattered, days when perfectionism appeared, days when you questioned yourself. But something important has changed. You have stopped making those feelings the deciding factor. You have begun to understand. I can feel anxious and still take one step. I can feel uncertain and still begin. I can feel imperfect and still create something meaningful. Allow those words to settle. You do not need to eliminate every uncomfortable feeling before moving forward. You are learning that you can move alongside them. Now allow your attention to move towards something you would like to share with others. Perhaps something you would like to teach, something you have learned, something you care deeply about, something that could be useful to another person. Imagine that sometime during these past few months, you chose to share it. Perhaps the first attempt was simple. Perhaps it was not exactly how you imagined it would be. Maybe you felt nervous beforehand. Maybe part of you wanted more time to prepare. Maybe you heard the familiar voice saying, "It isn't ready yet. I need to know more. I should make this better first." But this time, you noticed the voice without automatically obeying it, and you began anyway. Imagine yourself preparing, not trying to prove anything, not trying to create the perfect experience, simply sharing something you understand, something that matters to you. Perhaps you chose one idea, one teaching, one simple practice, and you prepared enough. And then you allowed enough to be enough. Imagine the moment just before you began. There may have been nervousness, perhaps uncertainty. And then imagine taking one breath, saying the first few words, and beginning. Notice what happens after those first few moments. Perhaps your body begins to settle. Perhaps your attention moves away from yourself and toward what you are offering. And somewhere within the experience, you realize, I can do this. And when it is finished, instead of immediately searching for everything you could have done differently, you acknowledge something more important. I followed through. Allow yourself to feel that. Not perfection, completion. You followed through. And that experience becomes evidence. Evidence that you can begin. Evidence that you can learn through doing. Evidence that you do not have to wait until every part of you feels ready. And perhaps you begin to understand something else. Confidence does not always come first. Sometimes confidence is created because you acted. Now imagine the weeks that followed. Perhaps you shared something again. Perhaps you wrote something. Perhaps you studied something you wanted to explore more deeply. Perhaps you created something small. Your path begins growing, one piece at a time. There is less pressure now to know exactly what the entire journey will look like. Instead, you have begun asking a much simpler question. What is the next useful step? And when the answer becomes clear, you take that step. Now gently allow your awareness to move toward another area of life that may have felt uncertain or overwhelming. Perhaps money, work, health, relationships, home, family, or something else entirely. Imagine yourself beginning to look at this area more clearly. Not because everything has been solved, but because you have become a little more willing to see what is actually there. Perhaps there were things you previously avoided because looking at them created discomfort. But you have discovered that understanding something is often less frightening than imagining it. You begin gathering information, looking at what is true, understanding your options, taking one practical step. and then another. Notice the difference between uncertainty and information, between avoidance and knowing. There is something grounding about knowing where you stand. Even when the answer is not exactly what you want it to be. And now bring to mind something in your life that you cannot fully resolve at this moment. Perhaps there is a decision that depends on circumstances beyond your control. Perhaps there is something you deeply want, but the conditions are not yet right. Imagine this future version of you recognizing something important. Not every problem needs to be solved today. Some things require action, and some things require patience. Imagine allowing yourself to say, this may not be possible right now. That does not mean never. It simply means not right now. And notice whether something inside you begins to soften. You can still care deeply. You can still hope. You can still have dreams for the future. But you no longer have to solve the same unsolvable question every day. You allow it to rest. And the energy that was repeatedly spent trying to force an answer begins returning to you. That energy becomes available for the life that is here now, for the things you can influence, for the conversations you can have, the work you can do, the choices you can make, the practices you can return to, the relationships you can nurture, the life that is actually happening around you. Take a slow breath in and gently breathe out. And now, imagine yourself 6 months from today, looking back at the person you are right now. Remember the uncertainty that may be present today. Remember the questions. Remember the moments when it feels difficult to know where to begin. And imagine this future version of you speaking gently to you. Ask them, what did I finally understand? Pause for the few moments. Allow whatever answer comes. What did I finally understand? And then ask, what small action made the biggest difference? What small action made the biggest difference? And finally ask, what do you want me to stop waiting for? What do you want me to stop waiting for? Allow the answer to come in whatever way it comes. A word, a feeling, an image, a sentence, or perhaps simply a quiet sense of knowing. And now imagine this future version of you placing something into your hand. It may be symbolic, a word, an object, a reminder, something representing what you will need during the months ahead. Notice what you receive. Perhaps it represents courage, consistency, patience, simplicity, trust, curiosity, or permission to begin. Let yourself receive it. And imagine your future self reminding you, you do not need to create my entire life today. You only need to create the next step. Again, you do not need to create my entire life today. You only need to create the next step. Allow those words to settle. And now slowly begin stepping out of that future scene. See yourself walking back along the pathway, returning toward the present moment. But you are bringing something back with you. Not certainty about everything, something much more useful. An understanding that your future is shaped through ordinary actions. Writing something down, having the conversation, looking at the numbers, making the appointment, preparing the lesson, sharing the idea, going for the walk, returning to the practice, completing one task. And then, when the time comes, another. Small actions repeated over time. Take a slow breath in. And as you breathe out, begin returning your awareness to the body. Feel the surface beneath you. Notice the sounds around you. Become aware of your hands, your feet, your breathing. And before you open your eyes, ask yourself one final question. What is one action I can take within the next 24 hours that my future self would be grateful I completed? What is one action I can take within the next 24 hours that my future self would be grateful I completed? Do not choose 10 things, choose one. Allow one simple action to become clear. And quietly remind yourself, I do not have to feel ready. I only have to take the next step. Take a final slow breath in and a full easy breath out. Begin gently moving your fingers, your toes. And when you feel ready, gently open your eyes. Take your time. There is nowhere you need to rush to. As you move back into your day, remember that future pacing is not about predicting exactly what your life will look like. It is about helping your mind experience the possibility of moving forward. You do not need a complete plan. You do not need to resolve every uncertainty. And you do not need to become a different person before you begin. The future is often created through much smaller moments than we imagine. One decision, one conversation, one task completed, one promise to yourself that you keep. If you can, take a moment now to write down three things. The message you received from your future self, the word, image, or symbol that came to you, and the one action you will take within the next 24 hours. And let that one action be enough. You can return to this practice whenever you find yourself waiting for certainty, motivation, confidence, or the perfect moment to begin. You do not have to see the entire path. You only need to take the next step. Namaste.